So recently we got our first look at the Dune Prophecy teaser trailer. This video is going to be a breakdown and analysis of what was in the trailer and include some information about the project itself. The project has had its fair share of ups and downs, which I've covered in my other videos if you want to check them out. This is the official synopsis from Legendary. Dune Prophecy is told through the eyes of a mysterious order of women known as the Bene Gesserit. Given extraordinary abilities by their mastery of the body and the mind, the Bene Gesserit expertly weave through the feudal politics and intrigue of the Imperium, pursuing plans of their own that will ultimately lead them to the enigmatic planet Arrakis, known to its inhabitants as Dune. So first we'll get straight into the breakdown of the trailer. The trailer begins with a nebula that looks like a kind of an eye, perhaps reminiscent of the eye symbology that Denis Villeneuve likes to use in his movies. There's a voiceover on the trailer, who is named as Valia Harkonnen by the official subtitles. And she says 10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides, before the universe would know us as the Bene Gesserit, we founded the Sisterhood. But there's one problem with this. How is Valia Harkonnen talking about Paul Atreides when that happens several millennia after Valia's time? So either this is purely for the trailer alone and not based on the character's knowledge and restrictions in the series itself, or she actually had some kind of prophecy where she foresees Paul Atreides becoming the Kwisatz Haderach, and she must take the steps to ensure that happens. This would tie the show with the movies, which was the original idea when John Spates was on board as a writer, before he left to write Dune Part 2 and explore other Dune projects also. We can see a group of women surrounding a bowl of water, and it looks as though their chanting is causing a ripple effect in the water, and it looks like water cymatics. And it's similar to water in a Tibetan singing bowl, which causes the water to ripple because of the sounds. I really hope, though, that they do show the Islamic influences of the Bene Gesserit too, because they study the Azhar book, which is essentially the Quran and other things too. So far, no sign of that. The writer's room did feature some interesting books alluding to possible influences in the series, but this was back when the show was called Dune the Sisterhood, before all the changes to the show, so we'll have to see when the final product is delivered. So in their unified chanting, they seem to be unlocking some kind of mystery. What that is, I can't say. Again, I hope they have an actual explanation as to what is going on in this scene, and it simply isn't a cool thing for the show that goes unexplained. The show tries to capture a similar style as the Dune movies in its large expansive spaces, and even in some of the costumes themselves. And the show very much looks like a Game of Thrones style series in the sense of the throne room entrances and heraldry, which is why many people agreed that the Dune book was very much suited to a series format in the style of Game of Thrones. The trailer features some weird transitions, but in those quick transitions you can kind of see those cymatics again at play, perhaps sand, perhaps spice. We get to see Mark Strong as the Emperor for the first time in a much more fitting attire for an Emperor, and it's kind of more reminiscent of the heraldry that was seen in the Dune 1984 movie. He looks more like Duke Leto in Dune Part 1 than he does the Emperor in Dune Part 2. The Bene Gesserit Sisterhood attire here is similar to the Bene Gesserit in Dune Part 1 and 2 in Denis Villeneuve's Dune movies. In this strange wedding ceremony where this woman is essentially marrying a child, it's in the same type of vein as Game of Thrones, as I've said before, and it seems like they're sealing the deal with a pomegranate, which I believe is symbolic of Greek wedding customs, where they open a pomegranate for good luck at weddings, fertility and prosperity. That was the aim of the tradition, because the fruit was a symbol of fertility and rebirth in ancient Greece.
And we will be judged for it.
And then you get a bit of overdramatic acting and then the reveal of her name. But I didn't really feel the impact of that revelation. It could have had a much more impactful meaning if it was kind of linked to the movie in some way where you feel it's actually the Harkonnens. So I'm talking about the same aesthetics like the bald heads, maybe black and white, something to kind of tie it to the movie in terms of its relevancy. However, it's fine for the time being, but maybe newer audiences wouldn't really get it. And just a spoiler alert, this is going to go into who Valia Harkonnen actually is. She's supposed to be one of the sisters who founded the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, and there were two Harkonnen sisters who did so, Valia and Tula. We get to see a fight sequence very reminiscent of the Dune movies in terms of the shield practice, where they have the blue Holtzman shields which protect them against strikes. Again, this is the series mirroring the movies. This actually reminds me of some Dune Adventures in the Imperium art which we saw. But a woman doesn't really have to fight a man to prove that she is powerful, and I hope this certainly isn't the case in the Dune series, where they're trying to prove something like that. I hope that doesn't come across in the actual scene. This seems to be Sarah Sophie Busnina, and she is supposed to be playing Princess Inez. And you get the trailer trying to be quite edgy at the end with this kind of tribal women folk music with a rhythm and a pulse, again mirroring that kind of Game of Thrones style. And it doesn't really reveal much except for one particular sequence which stands out for me. It seems that this woman at the end of the trailer is someone that they're trying to make a Bene Gesserit sister with unlocked memory abilities, where she's basically taking the kind of water of life. And it looks kind of similar to how Jessica took the water of life in Dune Part 2. But what I think happens in this scene is that this woman fails to become someone who unlocks her memories, and she dies as a result. And the scenes that we see earlier on in the trailer are actually of her being buried. This is her funeral ceremony. And then we see Valia sitting on the throne at the end of the trailer, kind of like she's fulfilling the original purpose she set out to achieve in the beginning of the trailer.
A sister on the throne. Nothing is more important.
They didn't really reveal Travis Fimmel's character yet, Desmond Hart, but I think this is Travis in the trailer, and I think they're saving that for the full Dune Prophecy trailer. This is only a teaser. And what this teaser trailer has tried to do is focus on the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood element of the show. We get an interesting kind of Dune logo reveal sequence, which was made by Imaginary Forces Studios. Some TV shows don't really have a full title sequence, but I think Dune Prophecy will. And I think this is also a teaser of the main title sequence for the series itself. These designs were made by the Imaginary Forces studio, and they've done title sequences for Sea, For All Mankind, Stranger Things, and more. The idea for the title sequence seems fine. It looks like it's supposed to be smoke, fire, water, and ice, perhaps trying to reflect the saying, "There is no smoke without fire." And I'm guessing to add to that, there is no ice without water. But it also seems to reflect a mastery of knowledge or natural elements, which in some ways the Bene Gesserit reflect. They work to master the body, mind, and spirit. And that's something I really want to see in this show. I want to see women trying to master their mind, body, and spirit. I want that to be the main focus, really. And then obviously the issues that come with a prophecy and trying to fulfill it to bring about the Kvezatz Haderach. And then we get the logo reveal at the end. And it seems like they're doing everything they possibly can to avoid making the Dune logo an ambigram. But it isn't the same Dune logo as Denis Villeneuve's Dune, so it seems like they're trying to make a distinction between the movie and the series, even though they're trying to, in some way, match the aesthetic of the movies with the series. And seeing as though this is set 10,000 years before Paul Atreides, the series should look completely different to the movies. It should have its own aesthetic. So I hope they lean more into their own Art Deco type, ancient aesthetic rather than copying the movies themselves. The Dune Prophecy series is going to feature 6 episodes, which is relatively short for a TV show. 3 of those episodes are going to be directed by Anna Forrester, who directed Underworld, Blood Wars, and some TV shows of Carnival Row, Westworld, Jessica Jones, Outlander, and more. Anna is going to direct the pilot of the Dune Prophecy series, instead of Denis Villeneuve, who was originally set to direct the pilot of the Dune series. 3 of the episode's titles have already been revealed. So the first episode is called The Hidden Hand. This could be referring to the Hand of God, or this could be referring to the hidden power of the Bene Gesserit. Episode 2 is called Two Wolves, and this sounds like the familiar saying, "Inside you there are 2 wolves." And the full saying is said to have come from a Cherokee legend. An old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life, and he says, "A fight is going on inside me," he said to the boy. "It is a terrible fight, and it is between 2 wolves. One is evil, he is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." He continued, "The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humanity, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you, and inside every other person too. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather which wolf will win. The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." Now it's unsure where this actually originates from, but that is the saying in full. So it seems that this episode is based on that Cherokee legend, but to me it's a tired expression that has been overused in movies and TV shows. It's been so overused that it's even become a meme. But I remember hearing it used in the New Mutants movie with Anya Taylor-Joy and Maisie Williams. But it was 2 bears instead of 2 wolves, and I thought, okay, I've heard it enough times now. So we'll see if they actually use it in the show. And episode 3 is titled Sisterhood Above All. And this phrase that is also mentioned in the trailer is reminiscent of the saying at the start of Dune Part 2, so it seems that every faction has their one priority. And of course for the Bene Gesserit it would be sisterhood, as in the Bene Gesserit schemes of the Sisterhood. There are 2 other directors attached to the Dune Prophecy series. One of them is John Cameron, who has directed episodes of Legion and Fargo, and even an episode of Xena Warrior Princess, so maybe some of that will be channeled in the Dune Prophecy series. The other director is Richard J. Lewis, who has directed episodes of Westworld, Person of Interest, and some of the CSI episodes. So far the trailer looks interesting. I'm still cautiously optimistic about this show because most of the things that I liked about the show that was attached to it, they already left. So we'll see how this goes. It's just a shame that we didn't get to keep on board Johan Renck and Jonesy for the music of the series. But there is one more episode of the Dune Prophecy series where we do not know who the director is. Who do you think it could be? Let me know in the comments below. With this series, I'm trying to go into it as blind as possible. I don't really want to read up about what it's supposed to mean. I'm not going to be reading the Sisterhood of Dune book. I started it, but when I realized that the series isn't really going to be based on the book fully, I thought there wasn't really much point in reading it to cover it for you. So I'd rather go into it fresh and blind like other people who haven't read the book. Either way, I will be watching, and I'll probably be covering it, so stay tuned for that. Check out some of my other Dune content or some of my other popular culture videos here.